Hey, we're talking about MRO spray paint today. My all-time favorite spray paint. I just found out about these guys here about 2 years ago, 3 years ago from word of mouth. Someone mentioned to me, hey, have you ever tried that MRO paint? And I said, what's MRO paint? Oh, it's spray paint and it's pretty good paint. It's made by Seymour. So I looked it up. You can find this in some stores, but usually it's just carried on the internet. Amazon carries it, JB Tools carries it. Make sure and check around. Check the prices. Look around before you buy directly from the store. If you do find it in the store, they might have it marked up quite a bit. But I'm telling you, this paint is just about worth it. They do make other colors. They make 2 different types of gray, a couple more types of gray. They make a machine on silver. This is my favorite, one of my favorite colors between this and the black. It's Cascade Green. They call it Cascade Green. Well, it's the same thing as John Deere Green. Just can't call it John Deere Green. This red, they call it Safety Red, but it's basically International or Toro Red. Maybe a little brighter than Toro. We've got a yellow here, Safety Yellow, typical. Now this, it says Equipment Yellow. Equipment Yellow, what could that be? That looks like cat yellow to me. It's exactly Caterpillar Yellow is what it is. They've got 2 oranges. They've got Omaha Orange and Safety Orange, and they're a little bit different, just a little. So a big thing with this paint is you can cover so much area with one of these cans versus a regular 12 ounce that you get. I would say one of these 16 ounces will cover just about as much as your other popular brands. We're not going to mention any brands here, this comparison. One of these 16 ounce cans will cover more than just about 2 12 ounce cans. This paint goes on super thick and it doesn't run. I gotta brag about the running thing. The runs is always, it happens, everybody does it. But when you're painting with MRO, whether it's up, flat, sideways, whatever it is, it's really hard to get this paint to run. I mean, it's not like it won't, but if you do get it to run, you're really doing something wrong. Not much to say about that, but first timers, if you haven't used MRO, you'll be pretty impressed. The black, I usually use the black quite a bit. I actually painted a whole Kenworth T800 in this paint a couple years ago when I first discovered it. I was pretty impressed. Did the job. Still looks good after I shot a clear coat on it. Nothing bad to say about it. Black's usually a hard color. Something else I like about this paint is, let's say you're going from a real dark color. Let's say we're going from a black surface to a white surface. Well, you're always going to see that ghostiness underneath, and it's never going to be even. With this paint, if you've got a chance of covering that dark color with a light cover, you're going to have that chance with MRO. It's going to be probably your best bet. Something that is very important to keep in mind with this paint is, as described on the back of these cans, it says a 48-hour cure period. Well, let me tell you about the cure period. So, if you're painting when it's 60 out, 65, 70, and doesn't get down towards freezing at night, you're going to have a good chance of it curing in that time. But if you're painting in a garage that you've warmed up on purpose to paint for that day, you paint and then all of a sudden it goes back down to outside temperature. It could be 40 during the night, 40 during the day. It's going to take more than 48 hours to dry. What I do is I give it 5 days, a week at most, just to keep it square in your mind that you know that you painted on Friday. We'll make it all the way next Friday, then we'll put another coat on if you have to. Now there is another thing you really have to keep in mind with this paint. This paint, as described on the can again, it says make sure that you do your painting. Let's say we start at noon and we paint all to 1 o'clock. We only have 1 hour of painting time before your curing starts. If you paint over that 1 hour that you've been painting from start to finish, it's actually going to start this, like, it almost looks like a lizard pattern, like a scale looking thing, and it's going to start cracking and bubbling. It doesn't look good. So make sure that you do. Now you can do 2 or 3 coats. I usually do 2 or 3 coats in that hour time. Give it 10 minutes, give it 15 minutes, come back to it, hit it once or twice more before you reach that end of hour period. If you follow that step, you will have a real nice finish. It will come out just like it should be. You won't get any ghostiness or anything like that. Just make sure you do that. I've got to stress this point where you've got to get it in that 1 hour timeline. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling your hair out. And that also goes with clear coat. If you think you have to put a clear coat on, I would ultimately wait at least a week, 5 days past the 48-hour cure period to put a clear coat on, just to make sure. This paint will dry in a cooler, area, but I would not paint below 50 degrees, let's say, especially if it's moist out, especially if you live somewhere up where you've got condensation at night or whatever it may be. So make sure you paint in a dry space and it keeps to that temperature. If you're not planning on getting it dry within that 48 hours or getting it cured all the way through, just let it go ahead and sit for a whole week inside. And then you know when you go, if you want to put a clear coat on it or do whatever you want to do, put some more paint on it, or you missed a couple of spots. That's where I always go wrong, is I'll paint the whole rig, whatever it may be, like an old classic John Deere. I'll get it all painted, and then 3 or 4 days later I'll notice a spot down low where I didn't see. I'm like, oh, I'm going to touch it up real quick. Well, as soon as you put that paint on there and the rest of the paint isn't cured, it'll actually somewhat ruin the paint, and we'll start doing that crackle, bubbly looking pattern on there, and you're like, oh man, I should have just left it for a few more days, would have been good. But you got to check this paint out. Check around on Amazon, check around on JV Tools, they carry it. Check the prices. I was getting this for $7, and I want to say 24 cents on Amazon here a couple months ago before they raised prices. Of course, fuel prices went up, everything goes up, which is very comparable. This is usually what I used to use, which is your good old Walmart Rust-Oleum 2X there. This is $5.98 a can at Walmart. This is 12 ounces. This is $7, used to be $7.24 on Amazon, delivered to the house for free for that many more ounces, for 4 more ounces. So you're basically saving money by using a good paint versus it's pretty good paint. I don't have anything bad to say about Rust-Oleum, but if you want runs, Rust-Oleum does run. It's a little thinner. It still is good paint, don't get me wrong, but this stuff, as far as running and looking good for a long time, a bright finish, I recommend MRO. So make sure you read the instructions on the back. I recommend at least 50, 55 to, I think 90 is what it says on the back of here. Let's look here, 50 to 90 exactly. They do have a cool Cummins tan color. You got to check that Cummins tan color out. So just remember, John Deere green, Caterpillar yellow. Instead of buying the expensive cat paint or the JD paint at the dealer, just go ahead and use this stuff. It's nicer paint, it lays nicer, it's so thick that you can cover so much more with this versus a regular thinner paint or, actual John Deere color OEM paint or cat OEM paint. I think that's about it. Leave me a comment, let me know if you've got any questions about MRO.